Hello and welcome to the EdjSports NFL betting preview for Week 7. I am your host, Ian O'Connor, Senior Data Analyst here at EdjSports, and I'll be previewing the Week 7 Thursday night football game between the Denver Broncos and Cleveland Browns, along with a handful of other games from the weekend, and I'll also give a couple of our money line value picks. But before I dive right into the previews, just want to remind everyone you can catch me here every Thursday throughout the NFL season previewing the upcoming weekend's action, as well as every Monday morning where I'm joined by our VP of Data Science, Scott Brown, to analyze the weekend's action and decision-making, as well as preview that week's Monday Night Football matchup. You can catch us on the EdjSports Podcast Network on your podcast platform of choice. Be sure to subscribe and give us a 5-star review, and also subscribe to our EdjSports YouTube channel. There you'll also be able to catch our podcast and our matchup previews for every game of every week. And also be sure to check out our all-new site and experience at EdjSports.com. That is EdjSports.com. And download our new app, which is available for both iOS and Android. You can get pregame betting insights for every NFL game this season, including our fair value spreads and totals. And you have the ability to track your bets to see the probability of them hitting, which updates in real time throughout the games. So jumping into our previews, Week 7, we've got 6 teams on bye this week, so there's not as much to choose from. As always, I'll start with the Thursday night football matchup between the Broncos and the Browns. Cleveland comes into this game on a 2-game losing streak. Denver's on a 3-game losing streak after starting 3-0. And the Browns, man, they are riddled with injuries. I mean, they won't have Baker Mayfield tonight with a shoulder injury that he's been playing through. It made a little bit worse last week. I believe his first missed start since becoming the starter back in 2018. Case Keenum will start in his place. The Browns are hoping he can recapture some of that Minnesota magic he had back in 2017 on their run to the NFC Championship game. But for Cleveland, with Baker, they're 8th in total offense. They're only 16th in passing, but 2nd in rushing. However, I've mentioned how Cleveland is riddled with injuries. They will have no Nick Chubb, who is on IR. This is his 2nd week on IR. And will be without Kareem Hunt, who was just placed on IR on Tuesday. So they'll have Demetric Felton and DeErnest Johnson as their 2 running backs coming in who have seen limited action over the last couple years. The Browns have 8 players that are questionable for Thursday, including both starting offensive tackles and wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. So going to be a tough night for the Browns. Just a ton of injuries. We'll see who's able to play, who's not. But that Denver defense that they're facing started off well, but has dropped to only 24th overall. They're 21st against the pass, 20th against the rush. So even with those guys they're missing, Cleveland doesn't face the toughest of tests. I think that Broncos defense is probably better than 24th overall. But like I said, after that hot start to the season, they've kind of fallen off a bit. They just gave up 34 points to Las Vegas. Denver had the 5th worst overall DVOA last week. Las Vegas had the 5th best. And their defense, the Broncos, was the worst of the week in terms of DVOA. So these stats you can get at Football Outsiders with a Football Outsiders Plus subscription. You can get that for less than $5 per month, and that's at footballoutsiders.com. They've got some great stats over there, one of our partners at Football Outsiders. Now, the Cleveland defense has actually been pretty decent at 13th overall. Even last week against Arizona, where they just got completely blown out. They kind of made it a game there towards halftime with the Baker Mayfield Hail Mary. But the defense was right at average for the week, so not bad given the final score of that one. They're better against the run, where they're 3rd, than the pass, where they're only 20th. But Denver is better passing than rushing. They're only 14th in passing. Teddy Bridgewater's 13th among quarterbacks. So they're right around the middle of the pack against the 20th ranked Browns pass defense. So going to jump right into the numbers here in the market. The market spread on this one is Cleveland -2. Our fair value spread is right on that, Cleveland -2 as well. We do give Cleveland a slight edge to cover -2 at 52.8%. So that is to win by 3 or more. 55.6% chance to push or cover, so to win by 2 or more in this one. Now, the Browns dropped from -4 to -2 in our numbers with the switch to Case Keenum yesterday morning when it was announced that Baker Mayfield would be out. They dropped from 64% win probability to win straight up to 58%. So we still have them favorites to win, but not as much, obviously, without their starting quarterback. The total on this one is 41.5 points in the market. Our edge fair value is 44. A lot of the outcomes in this one come around 44, 45, up into those upper 40s. So we give this one 58% chance to exceed 41.5 points. And looking at the public betting, 67% of the bets and 72% of the money were on Cleveland as of this morning. So people still think that Browns team is going to win this one tonight. At least the majority of people do. So just to recap the Thursday night football game, there is a slight value on the spread on our model, a little bit more on the over. So Cleveland, 55.6% chance to push or cover -2. And there's 58% chance for this game to exceed the 41.5 point total. Moving on to our next game. This is a game where we have our biggest deviation from the market. It's Atlanta at Miami. So these are two of the worst teams in the league, but we do have a lot of value in this one, or we see a lot of value in this one. The Falcons are dead last in overall DVOA. They're 29th in offense, 30th in defense, 32nd in special teams. Now, the Dolphins aren't much better, but they're 28th in overall DVOA, 30th in offense, though they didn't have Tua for 3 of their games. They're 26th on defense and 23rd on special teams. However, Miami is 3 spots better in Dave, which incorporates preseason projections. Guys at Aaron Schatz and the guys at Football Outsiders have found that there's a better correlation in team performance when still including Dave, a blend of Dave and their DVOA in the season. Dave kind of fades out as the weeks go on. I think now we're at 65% Dave and 35% DVOA for teams that have played 6 games so far. So that's kind of seeing how Miami sits there a few spots better, but their Dave value is nearly 2 times higher than Atlanta. So even though they're only a few spots higher, they're like I said, 2 times higher in their actual DVOA or Dave value number there. So we'll jump into the numbers on this one in the market. Like I said, Atlanta is -2.5. I mentioned this is our biggest deviation. Our edge fair value is Miami -6. So we've got an 8.5 point difference there. Giving the Dolphins 71.6% chance to cover +2.5. Now this game opened at Miami -2.5. The Dolphins were favored on Sunday night, but quickly shifted to Atlanta -2.5, I think by like 10 o'clock on Monday morning. So it was not too uncommon, but it was a quick shift to see it go from Miami -2.5 to +2.5. It could be a matter of people undervaluing Tua due to the public sentiment that he's been a bust. I mean, I don't think he's really played enough to prove or disprove anything. And, 6 points might be a little too much for Miami, but I do still agree with our model that Miami has a great chance to cover this one against Atlanta at home. Looking at the total, we're pretty close here. The market's at 48 points. Our edge fair value is 50. So we've got 58.3% chance for this game to reach 48 points. That is to go 48 points or more. Looking at the public betting on this, 59% of the bets are on Atlanta, but 59% of the money is on Miami. So looks like some of those higher dollar amount bets coming in on Miami, just like we are. Little bit of value there. So it looks like some of the public is picking up on some of that too with some of those high dollar bets on Miami. Now, Miami, mentioned we've got a lot of value there. 67% chance to win straight up versus a market implied 47%. So this will end up being one of our moneyline value picks this week as well. So just to recap that matchup so far, Miami, 71.6% chance to cover +2.5. And there's 58.3% chance for this game to reach at least 48 points according to our model. Moving on to our last game this week, Kansas City at Tennessee. These two teams have had a couple of memorable games here in recent years. In 2017, the AFC wildcard, the Titans scored 18 unanswered to stun Kansas City, though that was before Mahomes and Tannehill were at quarterback for each of these teams. 2 years later, the 2019 season, this was a regular season game. Ryan Tannehill had the game-winning touchdown drive in the 2-minute drill, had a 2-point conversion to go up by 3. Tennessee blocked Kansas City's game-tying field goal attempt to come away with the 35-32 victory in that one. And then that same season, Kansas City avenged that loss, overcoming a 10-point deficit in the AFC Championship en route to their Super Bowl victory. So we should be in for another exciting game between these two teams this weekend. And we're expecting plenty of fireworks in Nashville again this week after their Monday Night Football thriller against Buffalo. So we do see some value in Tennessee again this week on the spread. I think last week, Buffalo was 6.5, around 6-point favorites. We had that game as a 3-point spread in favor of Buffalo, so some value with Tennessee. This week, Kansas City is 5.5-point favorites. Our edge fair value is Kansas City -1. So we still give Kansas City the slight edge to win, but we're higher on Tennessee yet again. They've got a 65.7% chance to cover +5.5, according to our model. And they've got 47% chance to win versus a market implied 33%. When it comes to the total, there's not as much value as we see on the spread, but we do agree with the market. There's going to be some scoring. So the market is sitting at 57.5, the highest of week 7 by 7 points. The next closest total is 50.5. I think that's the Detroit Los Angeles Rams game where they're expecting the Rams obviously to score most of the points there. But coming in at 50.5, and we're at 57.5 for Kansas City. That's just a huge number when you're looking at those totals in the market. A lot of the other games I think are coming around mid to upper 40s. So our edge fair value is a little bit lower than that, but still our second highest of week 7 by only 1 point. We've got it as 53 points for our fair value total. We've got it as a 59% chance to fall short of 58 points, but it's still among the highest of our projected totals this week. Like I just said, just want to repeat, that is our second highest total, but only by 1 point behind, I think, Las Vegas and Philadelphia at 54 points. So expect some scoring. Kansas City is the second overall offense. They're fourth in passing, eighth in rushing. Tennessee's offense is only 14th. Not terrible, not what we've seen from them the last couple of years, but they really turned it on last week, at least running the ball. Derrick Henry went absolutely nuts for the second straight game. But Tennessee, 21st in passing, fourth in rushing. Now, the important thing is we know these teams, these offenses, Kansas City is top 2, Tennessee top half, but the Kansas City defense only 31st, Tennessee defense only 28th, both bottom 5 defenses. So Tennessee is top 5 defending the pass to tight ends and receivers, and they've got their toughest test trying to contain Travis Kelce, but they do have a decent shot. They're top 5 against passes to tight ends. They're number 5, I believe, and then number 4 against receivers. Again, that is another stat you can get from Football Outsiders with a Football Outsiders Plus subscription. You'll be able to see how each team stacks up defending passes to number 1 wide receivers, number 2 wide receivers, other wide receivers, and then tight ends and running backs. You can get FO Plus for less than $5 a month at footballoutsiders.com. So just went through the numbers. I'll say it again. Expect to see a lot of offense in this one. Would be very surprised to not see them combine for at least 50 points. Obviously, with the total at 57.5 in the market, 53 where we're at, we're expecting it to go pretty high into the 50s. Now, 63% of the bets are on Tennessee, but 68% of the money is on Kansas City. So people are still thinking Kansas City is going to win. I mentioned we have them as slight favorites, I think just at 53%, but we do still think Kansas City wins just barely more often than they lose. So to recap the numbers on that one, Tennessee is plus 5.5. We think they cover 65.7% of the time, according to our simulations. And this game has only 41% chance to exceed the 57.5 point market total. Now, moving on to our money line values. Every week, we like to highlight at least one in money line value pick. If you've been with us, been listening for a few weeks, you know how we do this. If not, just a quick recap. These are not always teams that we expect to win, just teams that we expect to win more often than the market implied win probability. So if we have a team at 45% chance to win, for instance, and the market implied probability based on the odds is only 25%, that would be a good value. We think they're going to win 45% of the time, and you only have to pay a price of them winning 25% of the time. So last week we went 1 for 2. Arizona beat Cleveland as underdogs. That one wasn't too surprising to a lot of people, but we did have Arizona as just slightly underdogs. The market was a little bit lower than we were. Then Detroit, they didn't come close to beating Cincinnati. We picked them a couple times, and they've lost by, I think, game-winning field goals or coming up short late in a one-point game. But last week, that one really wasn't close from the beginning. So we missed on that one, but they might get their first win eventually. Don't expect it to be this week, but oh well. So this week, we've got 2 this week, and both of which were mentioned on the show earlier. Miami and Atlanta. We've got Miami at 67% chance to win versus the market's 47%. So there's a 20% difference there. And we actually have Miami favored to win 2 out of 3 in 2 out of 3 of our simulations. We like them against the worst team in DVOA. Atlanta has just not been good. They're dead last, even behind Houston, even behind Jacksonville, although Jacksonville did just beat Miami. But, you know, we like Miami against them despite not being much better themselves in DVOA. The defense hasn't lived up to expectations, has still been better than the Atlanta offense, though. So that's one. Like I said, we've got 20% difference where we like Miami more than the market. And then the game that we just went over a moment ago, Tennessee versus Kansas City. Tennessee at 33% in the market. We've got them at 47%. So if this is one of those cases we don't necessarily expect them to win, it's very close to a 50-50. But there's a 14% greater chance they win in our model than what the market is saying. So Tennessee wins only 1 out of 3 based on that market number. We have them nearly 1 out of 2, almost half of our simulations. They win the game against Kansas City. I mentioned we did have value on Tennessee last week against Buffalo and the Bills' #1 ranked defense. The Titans shredded them for 34 points and the win. Now, Kansas City has a much better offense. Buffalo was only 12th in offense, Kansas City 2nd, but Tennessee should be able to keep up against the terrible Kansas City defense. So that will wrap up our Week 7 preview. Here's a quick recap for all of those at home keeping track. The Thursday night football game tonight between Denver and Cleveland. Our model has Cleveland at 55.6% chance to push or cover -2. And we have that game at 58% chance to exceed 41.5 points. Atlanta at Miami. We've got Miami with 71.6% chance to cover +2.5 and 58.3% chance for that game to reach 48 points. Looking at the Kansas City at Tennessee game, Tennessee has 65.7% chance to cover +5.5. And that game at only 41% chance to exceed 57.5 points, but our fair value total is 53 on that. Just want to mention that again in case that total moves at all, or you're just curious. 53 points, our second highest by only 1 point. And then our money line values, just to repeat, Miami 67% chance to win outright versus a market implied 47% against Atlanta. And Tennessee 47% chance to win versus a market implied 33% chance against Kansas City. So that'll do it for this week's betting preview. Be sure to check out all of our pregame betting insights for Week 7 and beyond on EdjSports.com and our new EdjSports app. Again, that's EdjSports. Be sure to check back Monday to hear our weekend recap and Monday Night Football betting preview. And don't forget to subscribe to the EdjSports Podcast Network on your preferred podcast platform. And give us a 5-star review, help build up our base there. And subscribe to our EdjSports YouTube channel as well. Thank you for listening and enjoy the Week 7 action.